Why would Reggie the Rat Wright Jr. lie and say Tupac Shakur called him shortly before being shot, complaining about Frank Alexander being his security? Oh, you think I'm bluffing? I got the conversation to prove that he lied and that he knew that Frank was the only security on him, despite saying otherwise. Let's get into some of the straight game.
Life is like some cards. It's not what you dealt, but how you play it. Play each situation correctly. I remember they used to laugh at a brother.
Welcome back, guys. Welcome back. It's your boy DELRAY Richardson, Platinum Artist, Platinum Songwriter, Straight Game TV. Thank you for tuning in. I appreciate your time. Do me a favor. Click on what appears to be that little bell notification. Also, hit the thumbs up button and subscribe to the channel. I appreciate you. Ladies and gentlemen, I found a bombshell on the internet. I'm going to show you something that, beyond any shadow of a doubt from the lies that you thought you've heard from Reggie the Rat Wright Jr., in relation to the Tupac Shakur situation now, after being one of the suspects, if you will, according to court documents and the motion filed by Keefe D and his attorney and the private investigators. I want you to pay attention to this very carefully. And this was an interview. I'm going to do it like this. This was an interview done by All Hip Hop. And I'm going to show you, why would Reggie the Rat Wright Jr. lie about Tupac contacting him in regards to Frank Alexander being his security? Right? Listen, just watch this. So the question, it never gets answered. It never gets answered. But I want you to understand that Frank Alexander on the day of the fight didn't have a radio. He didn't have a radio. And it was Reggie the Rat Wright Jr.'s job to know this. So listen, another thing, the question from All Hip Hop, another thing that was presented in the movie was that the use of the walkie-talkies, which was pretty much standard for your staff at the time, were not available to Frank Alexander. Notice how the question doesn't get answered, but he goes into this lie about Tupac calling him. And I'm going to show you why it's a lie. Listen, Reginald Wright. Frank had been on vacation the week prior. The thing is, Pac hated Frank. That's why he shook Frank at the casino. Now, he wouldn't know that. Reggie the Rat Wright Jr. wouldn't know that. This is information that he heard from Frank in regards to Tupac and how they got separated at the casino, right? Not that he shook him, they got separated. But listen, Pac called and said, Reggie, this is Reggie saying that Tupac called him shortly before being shot, complaining about Frank being in security and him, understanding that Frank was his security that night. Listen, Pac called and said, Reggie, why the fuck? I told you I don't want this dude with me no more. I told you the one I want is Hacky. I told him all the other guys are at the club, right? Now, despite knowing that if Tupac calling him, he's telling him all the other guys at the club, and he's not sending any other guy because Tupac is complaining about Frank allegedly, right? But I'm going to show you why that's a lie. Even if it did happen according to that, which it didn't, Reggie, even in his lie, didn't even make another attempt to send anybody else to guard Tupac at that particular time, and it was only Frank, right? So he said that Tupac said he didn't care. He really liked Kevin. I can't say he didn't like Kevin. He liked dealing with Kevin and all of that. So now I want you to digest that for a minute. Pac allegedly calling Reggie, complaining about Frank Alexander, and Reggie telling him about Kevin Hacky. Not that Kevin Hacky's on the way. Not that Kevin Hacky is none of the other things, right? But now, let me show you why that is a lie, right? So, Pac is telling him that Frank Alexander is on him. Reggie knows about this and all the whole 9 yards, right? Check this out. Same interview. Listen. Now remember, Reggie once again passing the buck to Frank, because Reggie didn't like Frank. Frank didn't call me and tell me Kevin Hackey didn't show up yet or that they had left. Right? What? It wasn't Frank's job to, because once again, Tupac is calling Reggie, telling Reggie about Frank being on him. Now it's Frank's job to call Reggie and let Reggie know that Kevin Hackey didn't show up. But listen, they went to the fight in a cab. We didn't even know that until later on, until Suge got to the fight, right? That's when we learned he only had one bodyguard, but by that time, the incident had happened. That's a lie. Because earlier on in the evening, right, he claimed that Tupac called him and told him that Frank Alexander was on him. Reggie knew that at that time. Now, Reggie is switching the story after the incident had happened. Listen, he said, Frank didn't call me and tell me Kevin Hackey didn't show up yet or that they had left. They went to the fight in a cab. We didn't even know that until later on, until Suge got to the fight. That's when we learned, listen, that's when we learned he's lying. That's when we learned that he had only one bodyguard, but by that time, the incident had happened. Listen, but at no point when they were at Suge's house, they were there and other people had walkie-talkies and everything. Frank had never called and informed us that they had the incident at the hotel, or did he ever inform me that he was the only bodyguard with Tupac? That is an absolute complete lie. Because according to Reggie, Frank didn't have to let him know that. He said that Tupac called him complaining about Frank being on him and that he didn't want Frank on him. So Reggie already knew that. This guy's a complete liar. He's a complete liar. But let me go to show you what he was really thinking, and that he didn't really care that about Frank or Tupac at that particular time. Remember, he was fired on August 27th. Listen, he was fired. Now he's saying, but he doesn't mention anything about Michael Moore. Remember, Suge said that Reggie pulled Michael Moore off of, and Michael Moore said Reggie pulled him off of him and told him to come to Club 662. Listen, our main focus that night was to get Club 662 together, because we were trying to have our liquor license and our business license. Reggie didn't own none of that. Reggie was the head of security. He's saying our as if he had ownership in Death Row or in this club, restaurant, bar 662. Listen, that's why I didn't even go to the fight with Suge, because getting everything together for the club was my concern. Not his responsibility, just his concern. Suge didn't direct Reggie to go down to Club 662. If you don't believe me, go and look at the grand jury testimony in regards to Reggie testifying in the Keefe D grand jury. Reggie Wright said that he drove past the MGM and seen the crowds and decided to keep going, right? Because he was just wanted to make sure everything was all right at the club. It was of no real concern to him. It wasn't his responsibility. But this is the part to let you know where he was. Listen, not saying that we didn't have the concern for Pac on mine, but that's where I was at. Ladies and gentlemen, do you see that? Reggie the Rat Wright Jr. just lied on Tupac and said Tupac contacted him. He wanted to put into Tupac's mouth how much Tupac hated Frank. But Tupac never expressed that. As a matter of fact, the proof of that matter, listen, the proof of that matter is the fact that when Frank said he had called Tupac and got in contact with him after the August 27 email asking him, was he fired? Right? Now, if that were true from Pac's perspective, right, minus other than it being death row security, remember, Reggie was fired as his personal security, but tonight, on this particular night, was a personal night, right? This is when Suge Knight also called Reggie and told him to send 5 more security guards. Remember, he's saying that it wasn't until he got, listen, look, check it out. He said it wasn't until he got to, what? He said, they went to the fight in a cab. We didn't even know until later on, until Suge got to the fight. Listen, right? Until Suge got to the fight, that's when we learned he had only one bodyguard, but by that time, the incident had happened. That's a lie. He said he didn't learn until Suge got to the fight, right? That's when Suge called him and told him, send 5 more security guards. And Reggie didn't send anybody. You understand? Reggie had to lie and put the situation and saying that Tupac called him. But we know Tupac didn't call him. Why? Because Reggie then claimed later on, right? He then claimed later on. That's when we learned he only had one bodyguard. But by that time, the incident had happened. If Tupac had called him and claimed and complained to him about Frank Alexander, what did Reggie say? What did Reggie say in regards to in regards to Tupac? What did he tell Tupac? He said he told Tupac, it's a lying boy, what don't make no sense, man. What did he say he told Tupac? I told him all the other guys were at the club. So if he told him all the other guys were at the club and Pac allegedly calling Reggie, telling him that he didn't want Frank Alexander, then Reggie would have known what? What would he have known? What would he have known? He would have known that what? That's when we learned that he only had one bodyguard, but by that time the incident had happened. He would have known that he had only one bodyguard when Tupac called him early that evening. Or right before the situation had happened. He's a liar. He's a liar. And as a matter of fact, when Suge got to the fight and Suge seen Tupac, remember Tupac had went early. When Suge got to the fight and seen Tupac only had Frank, that's when Suge Knight called Reggie Wright up and said, yo, you got to send 5 more security guards for Tupac. And Reggie didn't send nobody. And listen, Suge Knight said, also, I had 2 of the toughest guys, right, on Tupac. But what did he say? But Reggie pulled them off of him, meaning he pulled Michael Moore off of Tupac that night. It is a fact. The fact that Reggie would lie on Tupac and said Tupac called him in regards to only cast some kind of hate against Frank Alexander because he didn't like Frank, the fact that he would use Tupac as the catalyst to tell that lie is egregious. Is egregious. You know, so at the end of the day, we know for sure with this statement right here out of Reggie the Rat Wright Jr.'s mouth that he sabotaged Tupac's security. Reggie Wright Jr. is complicit in the death of Tupac Shakur by causation, by criminal negligence, and by negligence. It is without a shadow of a doubt. And not only that, he would use Tupac to tell a lie in regards to saying that, you know, he didn't want Frank on him and because he didn't like when the question posed. What was the question posed? The question posed was, and he still didn't answer the question. Another thing that was presented in the movie was the use of the walkie-talkies, which was pretty much standard for your staff at the time. and saying that it was not available for Frank Alexander. Reginald Wright goes on a tangent and then goes on a tangent about how much Tupac hated Frank and that Tupac had called him, right, complaining about Frank. At that time, Reggie would have been known that Frank was the only person on him, but Reggie then goes on to tell the lie that Tupac said that, and then to go in and then try to back the lie up more. But guess what? The fact of the matter was, in the same interview, he reveals the truth. He said, they went to the fight in the cab. We didn't even know that until later on, until Suge got to the fight. Pause. Until Suge got to the fight, how did he know that when Suge got to the fight, that Tupac only had one security guard when he said Tupac called him and told him that he didn't want Frank on him? How did he know that? Because that's when Suge called him and said, you know what? Send 5 more security guards because Frank was the only one on Tupac that night. Get it? So it's true. Reggie the Rat Wright Jr. sabotaged Tupac Shakur's security, man. You can't lie. This is an interview that he did. And you can see, contrast the two statements. As simple as that. Your boy DELRAY, straight gang.